This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Earlier this week, the top State Department press officer on Israeli-Palestinian affairs, Shahed Ghoreishi, was fired from his position without explanation. The firing comes after several internal debates at the State Department regarding how to characterize U.S. positions on Israel's war in Gaza, according to internal State Department records reviewed by the Washington Post. In the most recent dispute before his firing, Guresi had drafted a line for a press release in response to the controversial Israeli plan to relocate hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. The proposed line read, quote, "We do not support forced displacement of Palestinians in Gaza," unquote. Despite similar language being used by both President Trump and Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff earlier this year, it was struck from the statement by State Department leadership. Another recent dispute followed the targeted killing of the well-known Palestinian journalist Anas al-Sharif of Al Jazeera and 5 other journalists in a press tent in Gaza. Ghoreishi recommended a line that said, quote, "We mourn the loss of journalists and express condolences to their families," unquote. That line was also rejected. According to the Washington Post, a key figure in the internal disputes was David Milstein, a top advisor to the U.S. ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. In one direct disagreement, Milstein had pushed for the State Department to refer to the West Bank as Judea and Samaria, a biblical name for the area that's widely used within Israel. But West Bank is the internationally recognized name in the previously approved State Department language. Ghoreishi managed to cut the line. We go now to Washington, D.C., where we're joined by Shahed Ghoreishi in his first broadcast interview. Welcome to Democracy Now! Explain what took place, what you were told, and what about these controversies that led up to your firing?
Thanks, Amy. I have been a press officer at the State Department since September. I've been covering Israeli-Palestinian affairs since January. I had a good relationship with the civil servants there. I had a good relationship with even the political appointees there. You don't get this role on a whim. However, I believe that basic U.S. interests and human decency were important in my role. And last week, I think 3 events from Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday built up to aggravate the radical ideologues at the State Department and in Embassy Jerusalem to lead to my firing. Sunday was the terrible killing and murder of Anas and his colleagues. And Monday was the line about forced displacement, essentially ethnic cleansing. And Tuesday, I cut the line on regarding Judea and Samaria. These built up, and despite the goodwill that I had in the Bureau, it looks like that senior officials like Milstein in Embassy Jerusalem and people from the Secretary's office at the State Department both combined to get me fired by the end of the week.
So explain exactly what they said when you wanted to express condolences to these families of civilians, of journalists that died in an Israeli airstrike. Israel immediately claimed responsibility for the killing of Anas and his colleagues.
Well, they immediately said we can't provide condolences because Israel has claimed. We don't know. We don't know exactly what happened here, and Israel has claimed that he was a member of Hamas. I have an issue with relying on Israelis for every intelligence and comment. So we should be able to pause and evaluate things. If they had said, hey, we're going to wait 48 hours and confirm, that could be one thing, but immediately deferring to the Israelis is highly problematic.
And of course, Israel never provided evidence of this, and they never claimed that the 5 other journalists were members of Hamas.
They never do.
So talk about who Milstein is, one of your key opponents, the senior advisor to Mike Huckabee, the U.S. ambassador to Israel.
Look, he's someone who's influential and close with Ambassador Huckabee. he will communicate and have a lot of influence in the building. He's well known for pushing his agenda within the building. And I think that's highly problematic because we have these very impressive and hardworking civil servants in the building who are going through a process every single day, whether it be policy memos, press statements, to put the facts out there. And even if it's obviously we have a President Trump's administration, it's his prerogative, but the facts matter so that the agenda is in line with reality. However, folks like Milstein and his allies, which are a very small group in the grand scheme of things in the building, don't care about guardrails. In fact, the guardrails is what aggravates them. So even when you say, go ahead. The
debate around calling the West Bank Judea and Samaria goes to the House Speaker, Mike Huckabee, who made this visit to an Israeli settlement in the West Bank after an unannounced trip to Israel. Johnson used his visit to declare, quote, "The mountains of Judea and Samaria are the rightful property of the Jewish people." How did you win this fight, not to say Judea and Samaria in an official State Department's press release?
It's a good question. I want to emphasize that even though I have an influential role as a press officer, every single time something goes out, it requires input from the entire building. I can't go and release a statement unilaterally. So when it comes to Judea and Samaria, we have these, just to give some background for the audience, on days that the State Department holds daily press briefings, which the current schedule has tended to be Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have these packets of press guidance. It's pages of possible reporter questions and sample responses. And then before they go to the podium to brief reporters, the press officers will take turns by bureau to brief the spokesperson. Now, I was clearing, which means basically going through the approval process, I was clearing my packet that morning. Now, what's interesting is that Embassy Jerusalem, even though they're influential and normally should be in my dock, they let David Milstein lead, but he doesn't always have the either time or whatever it is to go into my docs every day. So I had to get the surprise once every, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks. He would jump in and edit my doc. So he did his classic surprise morning edits, where he goes through and adds all these edits that don't have precedent necessarily. And so some are approved. I usually go to other colleagues in the building and say, hey, these edits came in late in the process. Let's go through each one. And I'll say that even though I was the one who flagged my concern about Judea and Samaria first, I was not the only one in the building that shared that concern. So
let me ask you about that. How much dissent is there within the State Department when it comes to Israel-Palestine? I mean, today's top headline is that the UN has now declared famine in Gaza.
Look, people people read the headlines. They're perfectly aware. I want to emphasize that in a general sense, the civil servants there are doing their job. They know their role. They recognize the administration they're under and the prerogative. But at the same time, people are aware that, especially in the press context, policy is one thing, and there are obviously major concerns there. But just on the press side, being empathetic, a bit more empathetic, just at least showing concern is just basic press advice. And so people are concerned about the aggressive language. And now when someone like Milstein and the Secretary's office clamp down and fire someone like me, that puts a chilling effect on people who might give that advice that we need to call this out or be more empathetic or try to deliver things with a bit more human decency. So there's a real chilling effect throughout the building, especially after I'm gone.
What are your plans now? Do you plan to speak out on Israel-Palestine? And your response to the State Department telling the Washington Post the department has zero tolerance for employees who commit misconduct by leaking, your response?
So on my future plans, I am going to speak out. My intention is not to be out there forever. I don't need extended attention or anything. So if it's helpful, I think it's extremely important to speak out. But my intention isn't about me. I think it's about the how radical our policy is becoming, not just on policy but language as well. So I think that's important to flag, and I will do that for the time being, and I will figure out my future plans moving forward. Now, those lines are baseless, and reporters have their own ways of confirming details. So that's up to the Washington Post. However, in terms of there's another line that they mention about being the agenda and the policy of the president. Let me just say that if I was an activist within the building, I would have been fired long earlier than August. I was a believer in the process, in the guardrails, and a believer in human decency, and that eventually did get me fired, but I may have lasted this long because of the goodwill I had in the building. But at the end of the day, those quotes from the State Department don't make any sense.
Shahed Ghoreishi, I want to thank you so much for being with us, former top press officer for Israeli-Palestinian affairs at the State Department, fired by the State Department. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.